connected.
Does that sound better?
Oh yeah, that's good. Good.
Oh, good. Yeah, you're loud. Good. That's what I
Oh,
want. No, that's good.
yeah, I can be loud. So I've heard.
Not as loud as me. I take the cake. Well, I got 4:30. So
Yeah,
let's begin.
on time.
All right. Welcome to Writer's Life,
Yeah.
a place where you get the sight, sound, smells, taste of my particular writer's life. And where you get the truth about the writer's life. And you get a special guest today. But first, subscribe if you haven't already. Punch the like button. Tap the bell for notifications because it's very sensitive. And don't forget to visit the store, www.vinzandri.com, vinzandri.com, vinzandri.com. My website was out yesterday for some stupid ass reason. I was on the phone with GoDaddy till like midnight.
Oh wow.
I know. Can you imagine? But anyway, let me introduce you. I got a special guest today, my first ever guest on the Writer's Life. His name is Troy Lambert. That's a very strong name, like bull. And he's a very strong man. and he's from Twin Falls, Idaho. No, I don't know. Is there a Twin Falls, Idaho?
No, not Twin Falls. Is
there a Twin Falls,
Idaho?
Have you been there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I grew up in Idaho Falls, Idaho, which is a place that was named Idaho Falls before there was actually a waterfall.
Really?
Yeah, in eastern Idaho. But now I live in more of the western part of the state, so I live in Payette, which is outside of Boise.
Right.
So,
I've been to Payette.
yeah.
It's very flat.
Yeah. Yes. There are lots of rivers. We have 4
Yes.
rivers within about 10 miles of my house.
So you're doing a lot of fly fishing and stuff.
Do a lot of fishing, yeah. That's one of the things I love to do, and I just love how accessible everything is out here. It's really easy.
Yeah, I loved
Yeah.
Idaho. I mean, I only went once, but I loved it. Maybe we met then. I don't know. Did we meet then? It was during the Stonehouse days.
No, but I think that's kind of how we met online.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think we actually met then, but I think that's how we got connected. Yeah.
Is that how
during
we
the
got
Stonehouse
connected?
day.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. I don't remember. Some people ask me like, when did we meet? And I'm like, it had to do something with writing, and it was probably a long time ago.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah, because we've known each other for years,
yeah.
and we Troy and I work together in more nonfiction area sometimes or whatever.
Yeah.
But Troy's written a million books.
Yeah.
You have one of the best websites I've ever seen.
Oh, really?
Who's responsible for that?
Well, partly me and partly a web designer that I work with. But yeah, it's I really like the way my website is now. It's evolved over the years. I've had the same one since 2009-ish,
Right.
something like that. But of course, it's evolved as websites have evolved, and also because my career has evolved. So, I have more books. So I'm actually in the middle of transitioning to selling books direct off my website.
Well, you're not
By the end of the year,
transitioning, are you?
yeah.
You're not transitioning, Troy, are you?
No, not that.
What are you going to call yourself, Tina?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, right.
Troya.
Troy. There
It's a
you go.
strong name.
Strong woman.
Strong name.
Right.
Yeah, no. But yeah, no. So I'm moving towards selling direct on my website because it's a better option with some of the other stuff that's going on in publishing, as you know. But it takes time. It's a lot of work, and so I don't want to take a month off of writing to just do that.
Right.
Not really my jam. So,
Right. I've been doing. At like 7:00 at night, I go back to my website because it's still in the works. It's brand new, also, and I just been going through the books that I can legitimately sell direct, because some of them are in KU. Some of them I don't even know where the files are. You know what I mean? And but I had my first direct sale last week.
Oh wow!
It was It was a short story for $2.99, but I just sent the guy the file. I'm like, if you can help it, don't share the file. But then I was like, you know what? How many people grab a book, and read it, and they're like, oh, I'm going to give it to Aunt Margaret next, and then she's going to give it to Cousin Joey, and then Cousin Joey's going to read it and give it to so and so. So I'm like, I actually don't give a shit, like if people
Yeah.
share the file, it's just more
Yeah.
readers.
Also, to me, I'm like, I'd rather you not pirate my book, but if
Right.
you can't afford one,
Right.
honestly, email me and I'll send you one.
I do the same.
I'm not, neither one of us are rich, but I mean, we're also
Right.
like, we're making it, we're doing it,
We're
right?
doing it.
So, I mean, if you need a book,
Right.
and just let me know you need a book, and if you genuinely can't afford it, and hey, if you can't afford it and you want to buy one for someone else, do that too. I mean,
Yeah.
and so selling direct, I think, but I'm setting up a little different system so that basically it automatically gets sent to them. I don't have to do it.
Right.
I don't want to, so
I
I'm
hear you.
just not gonna.
I mean, because I think,
Geez, Mike,
I
turn
think,
over. Okay.
I feel like you're falling. I'm not sure if it's you who's falling or it's me.
Yeah, no, it was me. I had this little tripod thing, and
Right.
it was fine, and then it just like slowly started to tip, and I'm like, what's going on here?
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for people who right now just don't have anything coming in. I mean, there was this. Well, speaking of transitioning, 59 years, 2 months of being a man.
There you go. No danger there. No danger.
Yeah, there's an advert for
Oh my
Budweiser.
goodness.
Well, it's 4:35 here.
Yeah.
Somebody put up on X now a video of this poor guy in his car. Maybe you saw it. I don't know if he's a vet or not. It wouldn't surprise me if he was, though. And he's crying. He's like can't be more than 35. He's crying, and he's got 4 kids at home. He's taking care of on his own. He's got $4 in the bank, no money coming in, and like $30,000 in credit card debt that he can't even possibly begin to pay off. And moments later, he blows his brains out.
Oh man.
That's and it's and it just pisses me off because and then like we see these our leaders like they're in Lake Tahoe or they're doing this or they're doing that, and I don't know if they really give a shit. I really don't know. And not trying to get political by any means, but I mean, but something's got to change.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the other thing is like, I mean, especially if the guy's a vet. Veteran suicide is a big issue. I was a vet.
You're a vet.
And I have, yeah.
Thank you for your service and your son's service.
Lost friends. Oh yeah, my son now in the Philippines. But I mean, we've all known people that didn't make it, or that got out and just didn't know how to cope with the real world. And I mean, thank goodness, like that was not my experience. But I mean, other people experience that all the time, and that's one of the things that I do is I try to support groups that try to prevent veteran suicide. But it's such a big uphill battle, and it's to me, it's that a guy goes and fights for his country, sacrifices, and then comes up and nobody will give him a job. And I'm like, man, why can't this guy get a decent job? He's definitely got skills if he was in the military, I mean,
right. So. When did you go into the military?
95. So
all right,
I wasn't as young as some people when I went in. And got out. And there are a lot of reasons for that.
And what branch did you go in?
That's a whole different discussion, probably. But there are a lot of reasons I didn't stay in. But it was also like, even if you're only in for 4 years, you make a lot of sacrifices during those 4 years. Like my first marriage was
that's funny.
Into that 4 years.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
Right. And that's it. It's the military talked a lot about family at that particular point, but when you're gone 8-9 months out of the year in the field, it doesn't really translate to good stuff for your family.
No, you're married. You're married to the U.S. of A. at that point.
Yeah, and you don't get choices, and anyway, there's just And also, oddly enough, being a creative person, I found out that the Army really isn't into creative people that much. They want you to like obey orders and stuff,
Right.
not come up with ideas of your own.
Right.
So there's that. So
Right. I know. I went to military school, and I knew after that, like a lot of people, I only graduated with 40 boys, the Albany Academy for Boys, right? Like, uh, Teddy Roosevelt's kids went there, and all the
oh
governor's
wow,
kids go, yeah. And so Chris Cuomo was there when I was there and stuff like that. Um, but a lot of them transferred to West Point or the Navy Academy or something like that. And I knew, I'm like, I've had it being told what to do, right? And I knew, right, I was like, I love all things military. I'm a World War II buff and things like this. But I'd much rather approach it from the standpoint of a writer, on the
sure.
outside looking in rather than being on the inside looking out.
Well, yeah, and
Um,
part of my part of my freelance thing, I actually did some contracts with the U.S. military, and it's a lot better being a civilian working with the military than it is being a guy working with the military. It was
right,
just, I mean, it was a way different experience, way better for me. I
right.
know some people love it, stay in for life. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
But it wasn't for me. But I still like to do things with the military and with the government and stuff on a freelance
sure.
side of things
Yeah.
because it's not that I'm not supportive. It's just I understood this was not the life for me, But
So I mean, I've read some of your stuff, but I haven't seen any military influence in it at all. But do you have anything like that?
I do. Stray Ally is probably my one that has the most military experience. It's about a guy who's an ex-vet.
Right.
Basically comes across a dog in the woods. The short story of that is the dog ends up being his best friend and saving his life, essentially. So the dog is a real hero of that
Oh, so
particular
the
story.
tearjerker.
You know, But nah, not really. A little more actiony with maybe a little tear jerker at the end, but
Right.
not Old
What-
Yeller or anything
I
like
was gonna
that.
say, is it like
Yeah,
all Yeller? Don't make fun
yeah,
of the guest books, Vince.
but yeah, that one in particular was probably the only one that really had more direct military influence. For the most, when I left that military experience behind, like I left it behind.
Right.
Like I've done other things with the military, but that doesn't really bleed into my writing necessarily. And I kind of like it that way. I don't know, maybe at some point some of that'll creep in at some point, but it's not really like my military experience was the most pleasant one for me. So,
Right.
I'm like I don't like necessarily flashing back to it,
Right.
spending some time on it. So, yeah.
Right. Wow. Well, thanks for your service. That's awesome. What are you working on these days?
So I am working on two books at the same time because I'm insane. Well, not really. I'm kind of doing them in order. But so I wrote this book that you saw probably the other day that's called The Call of Karen. I actually wrote this on a
Yeah,
dare or not. Um,
that's brand
and it's
new,
kind of
right?
a funny book about relatively new, and that's one that basically Internet Karen meets Cthulhu, and the epitome of two worlds goes on an
Right.
adventure and talks to lots of managers and stuff. And
Right.
so I'm finishing up the
That's what caught me on
sequel
it.
to that, which is called it's Karen and the Black Hills of Death. So it's kind
That's
of a fun
kind
one.
of like
And then
that's. I
after
can't
that,
imagine. I can't imagine the Cthulhu like having any action with a female. I mean, the Cthulhu is like this huge
oh,
monster.
that's what people ask about, and I'm like, you can read for yourself. There's some action going on.
Right.
Not too graphic. We're not writing Cthulhu erotica over here.
I mean, maybe it
I
started a
can
whole new
handle that.
genre.
Uh, it could be. Kind of, I think it's kind of this action adventure romantic comedy thing.
Right.
And then I'm working on the sequel, Teaching Moments, which is my Max Boucher series, which is called
Right.
Compelled, and it's basically a really nasty serial killer type guy, and it's one of my favorites that I've written so far. I'm really liking it. So
Hey, so like, okay, so what's your writing habit? What are your writing habits like? I mean, how much fiction do you put in every day? I mean, I
So
know you do a lot
usually
of editing and a lot of nonfiction, but I mean, like, how much time writing fiction do you spend?
usually I try to have at least a couple hours a day in the morning. Now, sometimes when I'm in the middle of like a book release or in the middle of a big edit or something like that, then sometimes that'll take a little bit of a backseat. But
Right.
I try not to eat into my own writing time to do stuff for other people. Um,
Right.
it's part of my philosophy that I got from my grandpa, which is on fire to keep somebody else warm. So you take care of your own stuff first, you know.
I love
And
that.
that's but anyway, it's one of my things I just tell people, like, look, especially in the writing world, there's no emergencies. Nobody's on the table waiting for an organ or anything.
Right.
So just down, and if you get that edit done a little later, you're good, man. It's fine.
Right.
So
Right.
but anyway, so I try to do that a couple hours a day, and then if I have time, I'll go back to it in the afternoon and sometimes in the evening. I'll just
Right.
go back and write some more. It depends on where I'm at too, because sometimes I'll get really, like right now. I'm also finishing up a couple short stories, and I mean, if I'm really deep into one of those, like sometimes I extend my writing time because I can't come out of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
stay in there for a while longer.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find it's easier writing in sprints, like 15, 20-minute sprints, or are you the type to, like, I can just spend an hour just, because I have like ADD, so like I have to break it up into sprints.
Yeah, I generally like my sprints are usually an hour.
Oh,
And
okay. That's not a sprint.
I'm a
That's a
crazy
marathon.
fast typist. You
Wow.
know, if I'm marathon is I've done 10K days before, and
Wow.
really just hammered it out, like basically just broke for lunch, but everything else is pretty much takes a back burner. Um,
That's a full
so
novelette.
I've done those before. Yeah, those are killer. Those are killer, but I've done them before.
Yeah.
But I'm a crazy fast typist. I type about 120 words a minute when I'm really in
Wow.
the zone.
Wow.
So,
I'm still a two-fingered
so
idiot.
oh man, no, I got the fancy mechanical keyboard and all the stuff to make me faster. And people are like, I actually went to so years ago I was doing NaNoWriMo, the National
Right.
Writing Novel Writing Month in November. And I
Yep.
went to a write-in, and me being myself, I just put in my headphones, and I went to work. I mean, I started zipping away on my on my laptop, and all of a sudden I kind of come out of the zone, and there's like people staring at me, and I'm like, "What the hell's going on here?" I'm like, "What are these
Yeah.
people?" And one of them goes, "So are you actually typing words?" Because she goes, "Nobody types that fast," and I'm like,
Wow.
"Well, yeah." I'm like, I didn't know I was typing that fast, really. I didn't, I just completely lost it. And so I was deep in the zone, and I
Wow.
came out and she's like, that isn't even real. And I'm like, yeah, it is real because this is what I do. So
Wow.
I'm like, anyway,
Amazing.
so yeah.
Well, I still say it. In this day and age, I call it the digital pulp fiction era.
Yep.
Rewriting the same genres, basically. I still say, the more words equals more money.
Yeah.
And it really didn't hit me until a couple of years ago that I'm like, wow, I'm working with these publishers. I'm lucky if I can put out 4 books a year or whatever and some stories because they're limiting me and I'm not making anything past the advance usually. And I got a story
Yeah.
about that. And so 2 years ago, I'm like, I'm going to start beefing up my independent list and I'm just going to put out as much as I want and as long as it's good and I haven't stopped. I made a plan and I stuck to it and now I see the financial results of it and
Yeah.
I could definitely see it's not like this, but it's definitely like a little step by step by step by step
Yeah.
increase in in financial rewards, let's call them. But
Yeah.
and I can definitely see the future. I can definitely see whereas maybe for Troy Lambert, I wanted to call you Troy Aikman again. I've been doing that all week. Um, Maybe for Troy Lambert, like 15 books is your like point of no return, where like, good, now I'm selling like $100 worth a day or something like that. But like, I know for me, it's going to be like 70 products or something like that in my store before, like, you can just see where it's, a
Yep.
certain amount is going to equal a certain amount of money per month. And especially now, if we can add direct sales
Yeah.
to what we're doing.
Well,
But
yeah,
I had this,
that helps with
no, go ahead.
But I was just going to say, direct sales helps with cash flow too, because then I'm not waiting
Oh,
for
yeah.
2 months from payment from Amazon. So
Absolutely.
you get your reward. You get your reward right away,
Right away.
and you're not waiting, because people don't understand. Like if it's slow summertime, you're not selling as many ebooks. Well, that
Right.
means I'm cash strapped until
Right.
November, because I got
You got to
two
hope.
months of
Yeah,
you got
you got
that
to have
two
a line
months
of
of
credit.
lag. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got that 2 months of lag. So you got to manage your cash flow. So that's part of the
Yeah.
whole motive behind, and part of it is a better experience for the reader. I mean, Amazon is struggling, obviously, in some ways. They
Yeah.
got all this junk coming out there in AI and all that kind of stuff, and it's got to
Yeah.
be crap for readers who are trying to find good stuff.
Right. Well,
And
they
so,
supposedly are cracking down on the AI, right?
there's some supposed things, but there's been some stuff happen that just, I mean, the Kindle Unlimited payouts are the lowest they've ever been
I read that.
in as long as I've been doing it. Long as I've been doing it, it's the lowest it's ever been per page, but the prices have gone up for the service.
Right.
So that money
And
obviously
but
isn't coming to me. Not
right,
coming to me,
the kid,
you
the
know.
Kindle Vella, the same thing happened last year. I was making like $1,000 a month off of
Yeah.
that, and this, I just got my bonus the other day, $100, and I'm putting up
Yeah.
sometimes two episodes a day. And
Yeah.
so I think part of that also is they were like, okay, well, we gave you free candy for a little while, and we're reining that back in.
Well, yeah. I think that with Kindle Vella especially, I think that like for a while they were giving free candy basically whether you were actually getting reads or not. And so
Right.
now they're saying, okay, it's coming down to more of, hey, once you can advertise Kindle Vella stories and just pay to play, well, then I'm going to give you those bonuses anymore for just writing stuff.
Yeah.
But they needed content.
Right.
They needed content before they can do that. And that, I mean,
Right.
that's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair, and it's
I'm
part
not
of their
bitching
business
about it.
model.
I'm not
You
bitching
know,
about it, and I think it's a great writing tool. Like
yeah.
I make sure I get 2 episodes out a day or so. And it's just such a great writing tool. I think.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it that way, and you
It's
get an
great
extra $100.
practice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you get feedback. So I tell people it's kind of like writing fan fiction, right, or whatever. Like
Yeah.
only you're not getting paid for fan fiction.
Right.
Well, instead you get feedback and comments from people on Kindle Vella. Maybe you don't.
Right.
Doesn't really matter. But you're practicing. You're putting that practice of writing and releasing something and publishing it every day.
Right.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, I've slacked off
Right.
lately, but I need to get
Right.
back into that.
Right.
But you're putting out stuff for people to read every day. It's rougher than your other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Doesn't matter.
I
But
tell them
people
though.
know it is. You're saying, yeah.
I tell them I'm like I just started another Moonlight today, and I'm like, thanks for reading this raw and uncut version of Moonlight
Yeah.
Gets Railroaded. So they know, and I'm like, look for it in edited book form sometime down the road or whatever. So like, what you're getting into. I'm not fooling anybody. But it's what I wanted.
Exactly.
What I wanted to tell you was I had, I work with several publishers. One of them's pretty well known. I'm not going to mention who it is, but I did 2 books with them, and I noticed it was a total of, the advance was small. It was a total of $6,000 advance, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed the past couple of royalty payouts, biannual royalty payouts. My agent is like, they keep sending letters saying like, we don't owe you anything now, right now, or whatever. And I'm not really paying attention to the books, right? The 2 books.
Yeah.
And one of them has sold very well. The other they marketed poorly. They gave it.
Yeah.
They called it a Gillian Flynn book, and it was anything but. And so I'm looking at it, looking at both books suddenly when I'm, when the new website's being created, and they're selling both books, both ebook versions of the books, for like $1.29. And I'm like, oh, okay. I can see what's going on here. You are never going to earn out your advance, and they're not publicizing. So I finally had it, and I send out this email with my CC my agent, and I'm kind of like a Harlan Ellison this way. Like I can only take so much before I explode, and so I email said owner, and I'm like, look it, you and I both know what you're doing. I am never going to earn out my advance with you selling these books at $1.29. What's that, like 15 cents towards the, whatever.
Yeah.
And then
you get something, 15 cents, maybe,
right.
maybe.
And so, and then at the end of it, I just couldn't help it. And I was like, and by the way, fuck you, you're a shyster. And so I get this email from my agent, like a half an hour later. He's like, Jesus, what did you do? What did you do? I was working with them to get the rights back and all this. And no, he wasn't. You know how it is. You know how it is with agents. They get flustered because they're like, well, I want to sell other books from other clients to these people, right? But I'd had it, and I was like, give me my rights back, if you're going to do this, because I can sell these books, Anyway, this stuff, it's a shyster business, and it frustrates me to no end. It frustrates me that bookstores keep the books in there, for the traditional stuff anyway. Keep the books in there for 6 weeks and yank them off the shelves, and that's it. It's done.
Yeah.
Like Dean Wesley Smith says, it's like spoiled fruit. Boom.
Yeah, they just return it. Yeah. The thing is, what's really interesting about this publishing game is that it's always been this tug of war between writers and publishers, and the publishers have most of the power, except when suddenly a bunch of big names go indie, like James A. Owen, a famous fantasy writer guy, super good friend of mine, been with Simon and Schuster for years. He starts going through his royalty statements, and he basically figures out these guys have been ripping me off.
Yeah, no doubt.
He sues them.
Right.
He sues them, and then after 30 years, the guy goes indie, and he's making more money than he ever had.
Right.
Because all of a sudden he realizes, like, I had all these people with their hands in the pie cutting out my living. And so I'm like, when you look at readers and like where they get their books and stuff, I hear readers that are saying, hey man, like the writer's strike, pay the writers.
Right.
If I can get my book somewhere where it actually pays the writer for their work, I'm willing to do that.
Right. I'm a big advocate. I'm such a huge advocate for paying the writer. You've seen some of my videos. And speaking of Harlan Ellison, there's that famous, I get a call from Fox, and they want me to, can they buy or can they have this interview? And he's like, sure, if you pay me. Yeah. And they're like, what? Pay you? And he's like, yeah, if you pay me, you can have the interview. And they're like, well, other people are doing it for free. He's like, look at, tell that to some other fool who fell off the turnip truck. He's like, I don't take a piss without getting paid. And what he said was so right on. And what he followed up with, he's like, it's the amateurs who are willing to do it all for free that undercut the professionals. And they all expect us to work for free. And it's like, when I go to the doctor, is she like, don't worry about it. Yeah, this one's on me. No. But do I bring him free books? Yeah, of course. And does a bricklayer get, today's a free day, like it just frustrates me to no end,
If you find a bricklayer that does, I got some driveway work I want that guy to do. If he's working for free that day, he's working for free that day, I'm all over it, man.
Right.
Because it's no other profession I don't go to my doctor and say, hey man, will you give me a physical for the exposure? I'll tell people that you're my doctor.
Yeah, watch what you're saying there.
You're a famous writer's doctor.
Right.
Will you do that for me for free? I'll spread the name of your brand everywhere. No,
that's going to work.
You won't ever do that. But how many times have you been approached as a writer and say, hey man, do this for exposure? I would just tell people, guess what? When I went down to the store, I went down to the store. They didn't take my exposure card. They wanted money. So do I. They don't take my exposure card. Oddly enough, discourage me from exposure in the grocery line.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
this is not what we're talking about here. I'm like, look,
Right.
we're professionals.
Yeah.
And one thing that early in my freelance career, one of the things I learned by doing freelance is there's people that can't write. They don't know how. They can't do it. So you
Right.
have a skill that's valuable. So why are we not getting
Right.
paid for it? So I learned early, I charge for everything. People can't do it. You think that they should be able
That's
to,
right.
but they can't. So,
Right. That's why
I get
I
paid
won't
for
work.
it.
Right. I won't work for the Huffington Post. I did a bunch of Medium articles, but pulled them off and put them on Vela, so at least I was getting some money for them.
Yeah.
But that's as far as it goes, and that's it. Like, no more of that. But like, for instance, I'm getting this tooth replaced, right? It has to. I can't do it until December or whatever because the bone has to grow back in. Now, this doctor is a friend of mine, and I'm not even getting a discount. Like
Huh.
$1,500. Like
Yeah.
that's what it costs. Like that's my business. And then there's not that I begrudge them because some of them are wonderful people, but some of them are like, when do I get my book? Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? Like, I thought you were going to give me some free books, a free book here and there. Like, what do I get in exchange? Like what, like,
Yeah.
is there, like, of
What's
course, like, because it didn't cost me any blood, sweat, and tears to, crap this thing out.
yeah.
But, that
Yeah.
drives me nuts.
It
But on
is
the other
something.
hand, we can't help it. Like, it goes full circle. Like, you know what? People are going to pass this around and whatever. And that's just the way it's always been.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm off, you know, uh, giving books away, it's interesting because to me, I will do it under certain circumstances, but the
Sure.
worst circumstances when somebody approaches you and says,
Right.
"Hey, can I have your stuff for free?" Then I
Yeah.
have to go, you know what? It's different. It's different if I come to you and I say, "Hey, man, you're a good friend of mine. Here's a free book." Or
Right.
you're my dentist. Hey, have a free book. Check it out. You know what you think?
Right. In
But
exchange
when you
for
approach me and
a couple
go,
of reviews or something. Yeah.
yeah, when you approach me and go, can I have a free book? I mean, if it's for a raffle for some good cause or whatever, I mean, I
Yeah.
really don't care. But I
Sure.
care when it's like, you can afford a book, you
Yeah.
have money. I mean, honestly, your doctor, once I give him one, I expect him to buy my books. That dude has money. He went to medical
Yeah.
school. He's got a
Yeah.
job. He's got
Doing better
money.
than me.
I'm not guilty
Yeah.
of every one of my
Sure.
books. You're
Right.
doing better than
Yeah.
me. So you want books, you just buy books,
Right.
anyway,
Right.
but yeah, you
And
know the thing. I mean,
it
we
gets to
both,
the point where they're like, well, let me give you some money. Let me give you some cash. And you actually have developed such a complex at this point that you're like, well, no, don't worry about it.
yeah,
Like, and at this point though, I'm like, no, I'll take the money. Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's me. At this point, I'm like, anymore, I'm like, no, I'll take the money. I'm like, if I pay to do something, if I pay you to do something, I expect you to pay me for the same thing.
sure.
And we're pros. We're pros. We're doing this for a living. We're professionals. So we have to get paid. I just tell people, and especially in person, I'm like, clearly I like to eat. So,
Yep.
you can see that pretty well. I mean, and so I need to be able to pay for that habit. You know what I mean?
You're just normal.
I
You're
like
just
good,
naturally a big guy, Troy.
yeah, I like good scotch. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I
expensive,
like the
expensive
whiskey.
hobby. I
Yeah.
mean,
Somebody's got to pay for that.
yeah, I mean, those buy for themselves. So,
Because, so at the end of your writing day, this brings up another point. Like, I think Jim Harrison called it like what did he call it? He called it the re-entry problem. Like at the end of a writing day, um, and I'm sure it's the same for artists. Musicians, not so much. I'm a musician too, and you don't really come out of it. You just sort of stay in that mode. But I'm no longer a musician. But anyway, retired that gig. But Jim Harrison used to
yeah,
say there's this re-entry problem where you've gone from like working completely in your head with this other hemisphere or whatever with these characters, and the only way to really re-enter properly is to pour a drink or whatever is your whatever you want to do. And then you can sort of feel human again, and and just sort of shut down that machine for a little bit, give it a rest. And it's exactly how I do it. And all this, it cracks me up when we watch these movies and people, they got the whiskey bottle next to the typewriter and all that stuff. That's bullshit. What a cliche. Because I would put out nothing but crap if I drank while I wrote.
Oh yeah, yeah. For me, there's definitely just a process of like mentally switching gears to go back and rejoin normal life, and then kind of switching gears to go back in writing a fiction life. Because as you know, there's writer than just writing books, but like I'll go out and play with my dog or, whatever, something like that actually gets me like, let's for that headspace. And I always kind of leave myself hanging when I leave a story for the day.
That's right.
I leave on some kind of cliffhanger because I know that the next day I got to read one sentence and I'm back in it.
That's right. I think Dick Belsky, maybe it was Dick Belsky or Charlie Salzberg, but they say one of those guys actually leaves a sentence half finished.
Yeah.
So you can be sure to continue on the next day. I know that feeling because like when I wake up in the morning, I'm super excited that I'm able to do this for my life, for my living, but I also have this empty feeling like, what if it doesn't come? What if I can't? What if today it doesn't work? There's some stupid ass reason, like what if it's like, like, oh my God, it finally happened, so that's always a worry, but I don't, it doesn't debilitate me by any means, but,
but that's how you can often always tell a real writer phrase, imposters don't get imposter syndrome. Only real people, only the people who are really doing it get imposter think, well, today's going to be the day that they discover I'm a hack and I should go for Walmart as a greeter, this whole thing. And
at least to be a steady paycheck.
But then you sit and it comes out again,
Right. Yeah. And I'm not, blowing my own horn. But like when I won this, there were some people that were like, that were nasty about it, right? Because a lot of writers think it's a zero-sum game, and I almost walked out of there thinking like, well, maybe it's a fluke.
Yeah.
But then when I won the Shamus for the same book under the same category, best paperback original, I was like, it wasn't a fluke after all, and I felt so much better about myself. But that's how sensitive we are,
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story for a whole nother time that I have you on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, brother, this went longer than I even thought, and I think we did this. We actually pulled this off.
We did it.
And if this works, I'm going to have a professional setup just like you have on. Now, listen, is your podcast The Writer's Life too?
No. I do a couple of them. I do one with Stacey Smakowski called Prose Writing Prose.
Okay.
And then I do a bunch of them for Plotter, but I've been on a lot of other people's podcasts. So I don't always like have my own stuff. Like I'm all over the place. But I do one with another editor all the time called Prose Talking Prose, because we basically tackle questions that we get from writers. Like we did one just recently. You should probably check it out because we talk about HarperCollins, because there's a thing in HarperCollins called Being Moored, and it's Anyway,
I'll definitely check it out.
Fascinating story.
Send me that. DM me that link, will you? Yeah. DM me that link when you get a chance. I'd really like to see that because I thought I saw The Writer's Life, and I'm like, Jesus, did I like subconsciously rip off Troy?
Nah.
Like when I created this, I was like, I hope not. But anyway, listen, everybody, this is Troy Lambert. Troy, where can they find you, buddy, to get your stuff?
My website, troylambertwrites.com. Or I tell people, if you Google me and I don't come up, your internet service is down, go ahead and get that fixed, and then you Google my name and you'll find me for sure. Right.
Lambert. Troy, like the Collar City right across the river here. Or like
exactly.
Of Greek mythology. All right, Troy, thanks so much for coming on, brother. And
Hey.
I will talk to you extremely soon because we're working on some projects together.
Yep. Thanks a lot, man. We'll
All
see
right,
you later.
brother. Thanks so much. And thanks everybody. And I will see you guys, God willing, not tomorrow, but Sunday. Ciao, ciao.
All right. See you, man.
See you, brother.